if you guys don't clean this is going to get in the way of your hand. See how it's skipping more from the bottom? If you continue with that skirt, it's just going to get bigger and bigger, and it's going to get in the way of your palm. So I always make it a habit to start cleaning that off. So keep your wheel nice and clean. Oh, this one works so nice. So again, I'm pushing in with my palm, coming in with my right. See that how that just goes up? Now if I have this little volcano, do I close that? No, it gives us a little air pocket. So bring that down. Sometimes air bubbles likes to travel into that spot too, so you can take it out. I just put in an air bubble in there.
Wait, so you pushed it down?
Mm-hmm. I just put an air bubble in there though. So I'm gonna do that one more time. Bring it up. I have a little air bubble, so I'm actually gonna take that little piece out. Took away. It feels like a bump, like a little wart. So you'll feel it coming up. But I just squeezed it out. So from here, I'm gonna just clean this up very quickly again. Squeeze some water in there. Left hand nice and straight. Right hand over the top at an angle. Do you guys remember why I told you it's at an angle? Yeah? Kinda? No? Because it's a smoother transition. If I'm putting pressure directly on the top, what's going on? It's wobbling. So if I'm gonna bring this back in. So if I come in from an angle, see how much smoother this transition is? Eventually my hand ends up at the top. And when it does, I stay right here. So this is what I'm using. I'm not digging my whole palm into it. I'm like right, do you see right where my like knuckle kind of is? I'm just gonna flatten it down from there. And this is now centered. The way you can tell if it's centered, see how it's just running through my hand without moving? If it's not centered, you're gonna find this bounce. So center this back up again, and when you remove your hands, I think this was like something that I saw some of you guys do. If you're pushing into it, and then you release, what just happened? Came off center. So when you're releasing, it should be nice and soft. Because you can always, huh?
It's hard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like.
Because your body is just like pushing it forward to stabilize, right? But the thing is, it's like before your body comes out, it's like your hand should come out first. If you are pushing forward, totally fine. If this is centered when you're pushing forward, okay. But you have to remember to take out your hands first and then move your back. Because if you're like pushing forward, see how this is still centered? If I just take out my hands nice and slow, this stays centered. But if I'm pushing forward and I move my back first, there's a difference, right? So make sure that you're like keeping that in mind. You have to keep your hand, you have to take off your hands first before you take out like before you back up your body. But this is centered again. Do I need to go over how to open it?
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go for it.
I find a lot of the time like the top of it is centered and then the bottom is still wobbly. Is that because of the skirt thing?
That's because of the skirt. And then what you can do if that's happening is push all of this in. Oh, is it? What you can do, so if you do have a skirt, always push in as much as you can with your sponge. Because then this is the closest thing to the center versus the top. And you can match the bottom to the top. But yeah, the bottom, one of the reasons why it might be off center is because of that skirt. And your hands are maybe just right above that skirt. So you are centering the top, but because your hands are not touching the bottom, you're not getting the whole thing. So, is that. Any more questions before I move on to opening? Do I need to go over opening again?
The only issue I have sometimes that my own fingers get in the way
When you open? So then, what I sometimes do, I think I taught you guys a little thumb hook,
Yeah.
right? So another thing you can do is use your pinky knuckle. This I do more when I'm throwing with like 5 to 6 pounds of clay or above. I'll use my pinky knuckle, kind of aim it towards the middle. Dig that in first. Slowly take that out so it gives me the hole. Don't put a bunch of water in there like I just did. Just want a few drops to make it soft. So you can use 2 fingers and just very slowly go in. And then from here, you can move on to the next step of stretching it open. There you go. But if your knuckles...
Are you holding it back in any way? Or
No, I just kind of hold my hand to feel more stable, because it kind of feels weird when you have your hand like free floating. So what I do is I put my left underneath. If I'm opening it this way, I like to put my left underneath to just help me feel a little bit more stabilized. Another thing you can do if that's kind of uncomfortable is hold it like this. So you start from the middle and work your way out like this. I'll show you this method on the next one, because I'm gonna show you how to make two shapes. This is itchy.
If it starts to wobble at this point, is it being pulled too fast, too hard?
Too fast, it's being pulled too fast, or your wheel is like hella spinning and you're trying to match the speed of the wheel. So last week, I think I mentioned it, your hand should always move slower than the wheel. You should never try to match the speed of the wheel, because the wheel is spinning pretty fast. And so your mind kind of plays this trick on you where it's like, oh, I have to go just as fast or I'm not going to get this. Like, it's not going to be even. But the thing is, the slower you go, the better, because it's a lot more even the slower you go, like your hand movement. The wheel, I'm going like medium speed. I never really truly go full speed on this, because then the centrifugal force makes everything want to come out. So then even if I try to go slow, the clay just wants to like spread out. So I go medium speed and my hand moves slower than the wheel. I'm gonna measure how much clay I have in the bottom. I think for these I want a really tall foot, so I'm probably gonna leave about 1/2 inch at the bottom. Yeah, that's about 1/2 inch, right? So I'm actually gonna leave a pretty thick bottom on this, because again, I think 2 weeks from now or next week I might switch up our syllabus, because if we're just making bowls and that stuff today, I can just do a quick trimming demo next week on like foots, on decorative foots, if this is dry enough. But yeah, I left like about 1/2 inch on this, so we're gonna remember that. And what am I gonna do before I continue to the bottom? Compress, heck yeah. So I got nerdy with you guys last week, right? You guys know why I told you guys to compress? Or would you like a fresh reminder? The S-crack. So clay again has, in this like 2-dimensional space, has these plate-like particles. So if we don't compress the clay, when we put water in it, they're activated. They're kind of all over the place. That's why it's so like plasticky, and like we can manipulate the shape so much easier, because these plates are kind of like all over the place. But if you don't compress and some of these plates are like this, what happens is as the clay starts to shrink, as the water starts to evaporate, these plates collide against each other and they create cracks around your piece. So if you get a bottom crack, that's because you didn't compress the clay enough. So you get kind of like an S crack. Same thing with the walls. You won't really have this problem if you're really pulling up and compressing as you're pulling. But let's say you decide to add a little bit of water around and then forgot to go back and like compress it, you're gonna get these hairline cracks going down, because the clay, it's not compressed into this dimensional space, like you didn't put them together. But one thing I want you guys to think about when you guys are making cups or bowls, if you're gonna be using it for very hot liquid, what happens if your bowl's too thin? When you pour something hot in it and you're holding it, it's gonna be super fucking hot. So there's this thing with potters that like I've noticed when I started throwing and just meeting more potters, like avid potters, is that they try to make things as thin as possible so it's super light. But the thing is, if you're gonna be pouring hot liquid into it, you don't want that thing super thin, because then it can also go into thermal shock. That heat can cause an expansion and then kind of break your piece. And that only happens if your piece is super thin or the bottom is super thin. Liquid will start to go through it. So my thing with thickness, it's like, this is a good thickness, about 1/4 inch all the way through. And you can still have something light while having something like this. Some people go super, super thin, and I'm just like, hell no, I'm not putting anything on in there. But I'm gonna start to pull up. If you guys want to get closer, feel free to get closer. But the way I pull up, and this might be uncomfortable for some folks, is this is how I initially pull up. So left hand's on the inside. Where's Regina? I mean, Regina, you're pretty good at pulling up.
I don't know.
So-
when I try to pull up at the end, after like a handstand, it starts to wobble.
Okay.
And I couldn't pull higher than that. I was like, okay, I don't know what to do after this.
So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up right-handed this way, and then the next one I'm gonna pull up left-handed for you, okay? And you guys have to translate that in your hands, because Regina has to do this all the time.
Yeah.
So the way I pull up right-handed, my sponge is right here in the bottom, and I'm trying to make this as straight as possible so you guys can actually see what I'm doing with my hands. But in the beginning, this is how I like my hands. I like to have my middle finger as the wall, and I have it a little bit more like inverted towards the inside, Because again, when this is spinning, what happens if I spin this too fast to the sponge? What just happened? If I just put my sponge right here in the inside, spun this really quickly, what happens to the sponge? Yeah, it flew out. So I don't want that to happen to my piece, and sometimes I kind of go a little too crazy with my foot. At least in the beginning I did. So what I do now is if I have trouble pulling up straight, everything I've been making has been flaring out. What I'm gonna try to do is now pull in. So I'm gonna go for more of a volcano shape. Even if your hand doesn't fit at the end, that's okay, that thing will stretch out. But I'm gonna start here at the bottom. My left hand is like this. I like to have 2 point of contacts on my hand, so this is how my hand looks like. I'm gonna slow down a little bit. But I like having my hand like this because I kind of push against my hand just a bit when I'm pressing in. Eventually my hand is gonna go like this. But the biggest thing to remember is don't push out with your left. Your left is just a wall, you're pushing into your left. So you're pushing out from the outside to the in, right? Does that make sense? So if you look at my sponge is usually gonna be pretty wet. The inside wall is gonna be nice and wet. I'm gonna start from the bottom. Let me know when you can see my finger dig in into the outline of the piece, okay? When you see it dig in, let me know. Yeah? You see my finger dig in? So now, I'm keeping that same amount of pressure and pushing that in into my left finger. Can you guys tell that I'm even moving? Barely, right? I'm going super, super slow. It's like I let the piece spin through my hand like twice before I even make any movements upward.
Okay.
But see how much I'm able to pull up? And see that little bit of skipping? That's because my sponge is getting dry. This sponge just kind of doesn't absorb anything anymore, so it's kind of sucky. But see how much I'm able to pull up? Over here is kind of where I let go a little bit, and so it started flaring out. But this is actually a pretty good size, but I still have a lot of clay here in the bottom. So again, I'm gonna check that real quick. I have this much clay in the bottom. That's about almost an inch. If I look at the top, it's 1/4 of an inch. So now this is the perfect thickness that I want. So this is actually perfect. So right here, that line that I just made. So I'm gonna pull this stuff from the bottom up, but once I get to about this line, I'm gonna let go of the pressure, but that doesn't mean I'm letting go of the whole piece. I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna compress, slowly come up, and to the moment I get here, I'm gonna slowly release that pressure, but still make my way up. So now this is, my hands are too small for this. So now I'm gonna switch over to this side. I'm gonna be using my fingertips. And if you're having trouble, I didn't have coffee this time. If you're having trouble pulling up, practice just pulling up. Like, don't worry about anything else, just up and down, as much as you can go, until it collapses. Heard a sigh. So let me know when you can see my finger press in.
Yep.
So now I'm slowly gonna move up. And right about here, I'm letting go of the pressure. But I'm still moving up, right? And did that change the thickness of the top? No, but it definitely went up. So, oh my god, this sponge sucks.
Get another one.
It's okay. I'll keep working
It's
with it.
an equally sucky sponge.
Oh, I'm gonna check something real quick. You're right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I still have a bit of clay here that I can definitely use, that I want to use, because I said we're going to work on height and we're going to try to utilize as much clay as we can. I probably need to stop putting water on this. I'm going to squeeze in as much as I possibly can. Slowly bring this up. I'm going to let go of the pressure right here. And there you go. But see how I'm able to bring most of that up? And if we're making bowls, we can kind of skip a step if we want to. Like we can skip some of the trimming by doing a wet trim. So I did utilize as much clay as I possibly could from this. So what I'm gonna do now is grab my potter's knife. I'm gonna hold it like a pencil like this. Regina, you hold it like this. So I'm gonna hold my potter's knife like this. Gonna go a little bit above the skirt. So you can see where my skirt is at, right? A little bit.
Minimum, but
So start from right here. I just saved myself like 5 minutes of trimming. Slice through the bottom, have that come out. There we go. And see? So that saved me some time from trimming. Now, I'm gonna start shaping this. This is, depending on the size of bowl, this might be like a perfect size ramen bowl. And so, I think I'll show you guys a ramen bowl first. And if you think about a ramen bowl, it's kind of like a triangle shape. So, I have multiple ways of doing this, and I've heard it's kind of scary how I open this up in the beginning, so bear with me, because I don't do it nice and slow. So you know how I said before, don't add a shit ton of water to this? You add a shit ton of water to it. Start from here. I like to keep my thumb out a little bit. I'm touching the bottom, so if you guys look through, look at where my finger's touching, my middle finger in the inside. Come in, so you guys can't see from the outside. See where my hand is at? Now watch my wrist. I had an air bubble in there. So that's what happens when you have an air bubble. But see how I'm able to open it up?
they didn't like swing.
I wish that poorly. So I'm going to bring this up just a little bit more just for the demo. And this is something that you guys can do too. I left about 1/2 inch of clay on here. So I'm going to start from the very middle, get some of that clay, put it on the sides. And now what I'm doing is actually pushing out with my left on my inside hand, and see how I'm able to bring back some height? You guys saw how short that was, right? So this is what it was supposed to look like when I opened it, but I overdid it. But right here, again, I'm still gonna do that kind of same thing, and I want it nice and straight, so my left hand is gonna stay nice and straight. Outside hand is just acting as like a guide. And that's kind of my ramen bowl. My very small ramen bowl.
It's cute.
That I'll eat instant ramen in. But there you go. And then what you can do, this is really wet. I'm using really wet clay too, so that's probably why I couldn't withstand that stretch that I did. Even with the air bubble, it shouldn't have like just ripped like that. It was super wet. So what I'm gonna do is compress this, because I'm pretty sure that if I just leave this alone without compressing it one more time, it's probably gonna collapse on me when I try to move it. So I'm gonna use my rip tool. I'm just gonna clean off some of the surface. How many of you guys use a chamois? A chamois, it's like goat skin. And for the inside, there's something called like or my professor would call it the speed bump. It's when you're trying to like stretch it open and you're left with like a little bump right here.
Yeah.
If you guys come in and feel this, you'll feel a little one. It's okay if you mess it up. You'll be able to feel a little bump in there. Right? Do you feel a little bump? So I'm gonna grab my rib tool very carefully.
You're just scraping it off.
Is there a reason you like the metal over the rubber?
I think it's because it's a little bit stronger, like the edge is a bit stronger versus the rubber tool. And I have a better, like, I just learned how to use this first, so this is what I'm more comfortable with. But if you're comfortable with the rubber tool, nothing wrong with that. I just like this one because it's a harder edge than the rubber tool, and I can bend it as much as I want. The rubber tool, there is a certain extent to where you can bend it, and this I can literally just bend the crap out of it. But that's why I like this one. So I don't have a chamois, and I don't really, not that there's anything wrong with chamois, but if you don't need one, I am, however, going to be right back. I'm going to go steal a little bit of plastic. This is also plastic.
Do you want like this?
No, I don't want your chamois. I just want to show you guys in case you guys use your chamois because that's the number one thing that gets lost in the studio. I find them clogging our sinks when I have to clean the sink, and it's really gross fishing them out. But if you just get a piece of plastic, in case you lose your chamois, see how smooth that is? Didn't use a chamois. But there's my bowl. So that's the ramen bowl. Now let's say you guys don't want a ramen bowl. You're just like, you looked at it and you're just like, hell no, I don't want that. So now what I'm gonna do is reshape it into a cereal bowl. So like kind of a half sphere. I might be overworking this piece of clay, a half sphere, because you can still shape it after this. So I compress the wall so I'm a little bit more comfortable putting a bit more water on this. But I'm gonna start from here in this corner. I'm gonna use my sponge on the outside for compression, but watch what I do, and you're gonna mainly see it. I'm sorry if you guys sprayed with water. I'm sure all of you guys are ready to get dirty in this class anyway. So just watch my hands. Look at the bottom. What's going on?
Oh. And wider. Oh wow. Rounder.
So you're able to do that if you take it nice and slow. I won't push this clay anymore because I can feel it wanting to be like, just do it, try one more time. Watch what happens. That's what it's telling me.
So what did you do with your hands?
So all I did was start from here. So kind of pretend like you have a bowl in front of you, right? Like your favorite cereal bowl or your favorite curved bowl. This kind of sounds a little bit weird. But you're gonna pretend you're holding your sponge on the outside of it. And so what you're doing is just literally doing this. You're just pushing out the curve that you want. And the moment you're just like, yeah, that's like the perfect curve. I'm gonna try one more time. And push the crap out of this button. So again, look at the hand on the inside. Just look at the position of the hand. Look at the position of the hand on the outside. They're like magnets right now. So I'm gonna pretend that I have a bowl in front of me and I'm sweeping the inside until I get the curvature that I want. The moment I get that curve that I want, which is about here, I'm now gonna start coming up. And see that how that became wider? But if I go any further than that, if I go any further than the vase and it's this thin, I'm really pushing it. Like, and if you guys notice, is this the same thickness I started with? It got a little thinner, right? So that's, you also want to leave it, you want to account for that thickness and how much you're going to stretch it, because if you stretch it too much, you're going to get a thinner bowl.
So with the way that you did it, you made the cylinder first, does it make sense to leave more clay on top then? Because it looks
Yeah, I definitely could have left the whole thing a little thicker instead of like going in thinner, but I think the bottom or this middle part might be a little thicker, but no way to tell unless I cut it in half. So how does, see how it's a little bit thicker here? This clay is so wet. Feel it? But yeah, I definitely could have left the whole cylinder just a little bit thicker, maybe half an inch, depending on how far you're trying to go. So, Regina, now it's your turn to have a lefty. But, did anybody want to try making big bowls for this class, or just like 2 pounds?
maybe like a salad bowl.
Okay.
Big possible.
So then, Could I ask one of you guys to just cut out
Never knew there were
like
many different-
4 pounds of clay from my bag?
This is still running.
That's okay.
This is your bag?
Yeah. So I'm just gonna do a quick demo for Regina. I don't think you need center because you've been doing good so far.
I watched it.
Okay. I had a whole class once of just left-handed folks, and I felt so bad because I didn't know how the heck to teach him. Because I tried showing them the right way, and it just didn't work out.
Oh no.
And so that whole night, I spent the whole day just throwing with my roommate, like left-handed, until I got it right, like 5 times in a row. But left hand here,
When I tried to wipe off the skirt, I end up my hole or my cylinders like getting narrower and narrower and narrower at a point where I cannot put my hand in it. So,
So-
I guess. When do you stop? I guess. Like,
with the skirt,
skirt wise, or like how much am I supposed to like push it in?
just that much.
Okay.
Just so it's like the same outline as your piece.
Okay.
So again, if like this is like completely off center, right?
Right.
Stabilize your right, come in with your left at the top, slowly push in. There you go.
Okay.
And then your skirt, that's how much I clean up.
Okay.
You're not trying to go super deep that you're getting it super narrow. It's just enough to get in just a little bit into the clip. So from here, and I'm gonna hook this one. I lied. I threw it off center. So this is how you, if you do throw it off center, right? For you guys, it would be like this. Regina, it's like this. See how that's stabilized back again? Man, I wedged these so badly. You can feel all the air bubbles in there. There it is. So, and what I noticed on some of yours, do you see how this is curved out? Get a 90-degree angle. It helps a lot.
Get a what?
A 90-degree angle because it helps you get all of that clay out of there. If your piece on the inside, when you're opening it up, just looks curved like this, there's a whole lot of thickness underneath there. And then one thing that I've noticed with this method, or like if you leave it like this, when you go to trim, the middle is so much thinner, and then the sides are so much thicker, and you end up with a really heavy piece that you can't even go down any further because the middle is too thin already. Thank you. You can put it. So then,
Sufficient.
thank you. So then now I'm gonna even this out to 90 degree.
Do you push with your outer hand at all?
No, it's just acting like a wall. And a little bit, you can just take out, compress. I love owner water. Okay, so now pulling up, right? So opposite. So my right hand is gonna be like this. And I like to touch 2 points. Slowly dig my hand in. I have a little bit of pressure this time because I'm not left-handed, and this is sort of uncomfortable for me. So my first pass is not going to be a lot of pressure. There we go. Explain that one more time.
One more time, please.
So my hand is like this, but I'm gonna switch over to this part.
It's like a cute little honeypot.
It does. So I'm gonna press in. I'm like my hand is still a little tilted in. So my inside hand is always tilted in just a bit. And when I put pressure into the piece, Well, since I'm starting from the bottom and there's a bit of a thickness at the bottom here, so this hand is a little raised. It doesn't hit initially, but the moment I get to the point where it's right on my finger, I'll go in a little bit more with the pressure. So start from here, putting in pressure. No excuses as to why you can't pull up. I'm just kidding. But when it comes to shaping with my left or with your right hand, same thing. So I'm gonna leave it about this thick. It's pretty thick. So what shape should I go for?
Can we see that flat round?
The flat rounded one? Okay, again, I'm putting a bunch of water on this, probably a big mistake, but so for right-handed, it's gonna be this way. All you're doing is moving your wrist. You're not moving your whole body or your whole arm. You're just moving your wrist. So just do like a little fishy. This is all you're literally doing. You're doing boop, boop, boop. So we're gonna start from right here. Slowly let it go. And there you go. Clean up the inside. Putting a little bit of water. I'm gonna straighten this out just a bit. Don't go this speedy because this is a crazy speed. This speed is okay. I'm actually pulling the wall a little bit. Can you guys see?
Nice.
And all I'm trying to do is straighten it out. I'm gonna do one more pass because I think this can go out just a little bit more. Right here, I'm actually gonna pull just a bit more to the outside. You guys see that? Ramen bowls have a little curve, right? Sure, kind of do. There you go. Made a little lip for it. And there's my ramen bowl. But see how nice and slow my hands go? I'm not moving any faster than the wheel. So my wheel was spinning about this fast. And honestly, nobody's gonna have us on the cake spinner to test this. So it's okay if it's a little bumpy. I only had one dick of a friend who did that to me. I didn't even know he had a cake spinner.
He's still your friend.
Yeah, he's still my friend. I feel like I just have friends like that. But like, I have one friend that if he ever compliments my work, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Because he always insults it when it's good, and I'm just like, what? You think it's bad now? So usually you'd hold it with your left. Actually, no, with my right. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm mixing myself up. And all I'm doing is just wanting to take out any like imperfections on the inside. Because I don't know about you guys, but I like when my spoon doesn't hit something. So I'm getting rid of that speed bump. Probably pulling it out just a little bit too much. And if you guys want a little lip on it, there you go. And if you don't want that little lip on it, you just put it back up. One on the outside, clean up all that slip. And slowly let go. And again, I'm just gonna clean up that. Where'd it go? My gross looking piece of plastic. It looks like my snake skin. Okay, there you go. That's how you throw a lefty bowl. Anything else you guys want me to show you? Or anything you want me to go over again? Or you guys just want to go try it?
Yeah.
Okay, you guys go try it. I'm gonna. Oh wait, did you guys want to throw the salad bowl?
Bigger?
Yeah, it's bigger. So for those of you who do want to throw a salad bowl, feel free to watch. If not, continue to throw. You don't have to watch. I'm not gonna go over like centering or anything like that because it's pretty much the same. Do I want to keep this?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, we're,
I'm just thinking.
everything that looks even a little.
Oh,
Do you want,
yes, please. Oh, somebody asked me for bats.
yes, I did.
Recommendation for bats. Let me get it a little bit more. Did I go over how to take off a piece from here?
Yeah.
Okay, water. Lots of water. Just making a mess here. Don't do this.
How do you not leave like fingerprint on it?
Very, very bottom. Probably work this a little bit better. Can I show you guys some bats very quickly? Especially because if you're planning to make a very large salad bowl, I just want to show you guys the bats very quick before I start on the demo.